What's up guys, this is Ultimate iDevice Vids, and today in this video we're going to be doing a massive battery drain test comparing iOS 14.6 to iOS 14.5.1 on all iPhone generations, and seeing how the battery performance is on these two iOS versions doing a variety of tasks. And we're using the base model phone from each lineup, as including the Pro, Plus, and SE models would have been a little bit too chaotic. And just to let you guys know, the very same iPhones are being used for both iOS version battery drain tests. I first did this test on 14.5.1 on all these iPhones, and then I updated them all to 14.6 and performed the exact same test again. As you can see, iOS 14.6 is on the bottom and 14.5.1 is on the top. And before we begin, I want to show you guys that True Tone and Night Shift are disabled on all of these devices in both instances, in addition to auto brightness. And in terms of battery health, as you can see, not all of these phones are at 100% battery health, but once again, the point of this video is not to compare these phones to one another, it's to compare the two iOS versions to one another. And again, it's the same iPhones being used in both instances. And of course, the brightness is set to the exact same amount on both instances on all devices using a lux meter. And the volume is turned down on all of them. And alright, so we're going to turn off the power source that these devices are connected to in both instances and remove the power cables. And we're going to begin with 1 hour of YouTube video streaming. So we're going to load up the same YouTube video on all the devices here. And we're going to make sure the quality is set to 1080p manually on all of the devices, and we're just going to let this video stream for an hour. And checking in after an hour of YouTube video streaming, as you can see on all devices except for the iPhone 12, iOS 14.6 does have an advantage over 14.5.1. And alright, so next up we're going to head on over to Instagram for an hour of looking at stories and posts, and we'll see how they fare after an hour of Instagram. And as I always do in videos like this, I thought I'd just quickly mention that, of course, battery performance entirely depends on what you do on your device, in addition to the age of the battery in your device. And also, in videos like this, of course, I do my best to make sure that there's no differing variables between two data sets, but there's always going to be minor things that could throw it off a little bit. So you should interpret these videos rather than analyzing it, percent point by percent point, hyper detailed. You should just take it as overall battery performance. And checking in after an hour of Instagram, as you can see, the numbers are continuing to trend in the same direction that they have been, with iOS 14.6 being in the lead on all devices except for, once again, the iPhone 12. And the iPhone 12 only being 1% point apart on these two versions as it stands. And next, we're going to head over to Minecraft, and we're going to play Minecraft for an hour on all these devices. Now, how we're going to do this, since I only have so many fingers, is I'm going to interact with 3 devices at a time. So for the first 30 minutes, I'm going to interact with the newest 3 devices, being the 12, 11, and 10R. And for the second 30 minutes, I'm going to switch to interacting with the 6S, 7, and 8. So all the devices get the same amount of interactive gameplay and standby time in the game. And 30 minutes into the game here, I'm just going to switch over to the other 3 devices and interact with those for the remainder of the hour. And checking in after Minecraft, as you can see here, again, the numbers are trending in the same direction that they have been. And next, we're going to do an hour of web browsing. So we're going to head on over to Safari on all the devices here. And for the first 30 minutes, we're going to be loading new web pages and scrolling through web pages on apple.com. And for the second 30 minutes, we're going to be loading new web pages and scrolling through web pages on theverge.com. And 3 hours and 58 minutes into this test, the iPhone 6S on 14.5.1 dies. And alright, checking in after the web browsing test, as you can see here, once again, 14.6 still certainly in the lead, with again, things just continuing as they have been. Alright, so next we're going to do some more gaming, this time in Subway Surfers. So we're going to head over to Subway Surfers, and we're going to play this game for 30 minutes. And we're going to do the same thing I did for Minecraft. I'm going to actually play the game, interacting with it on 3 devices at a time, starting with the 3 newest, and halfway through the 30 minutes, I'm going to switch to the other 3 devices. And 4 hours and 11 minutes into this test, the iPhone 7 on 14.5.1 dies. And continuing with the Subway Surfers test, of course, halfway through, we're going to switch to the other older devices. And in the case of 14.5.1, the only one remaining is the iPhone 8. And after Subway Surfers, with the latest 4 generations on 14.5.1 still on, and 14.6 still having all generations still alive, and with the numbers continuing in the same direction they have been, we're going to move on to Temple Run, and we're going to play Temple Run for 10 minutes, with ads appearing in between each round. And once again, same thing that we've been doing. We're going to interact with the first 3 devices for the first 5 minutes and the other 3 devices for the next 5 minutes to make sure everything is even. And checking in after 10 minutes of Temple Run with the iPhone 8 on 14.5.1 and the 6S on 14.6 just barely hanging on, we're going to move on to an hour of PUBG. So we're going to start a match on all devices, and of course, once again, we're going to do the same thing where we interact with 3 devices at a time, starting with the 3 newest. And finally, at 4 hours and 50 minutes into the test, the iPhone 6S on 14.6 dies, and very shortly followed by the iPhone 8 on 14.5.1, also dying at 4 hours and 50 minutes in. And the next device to go down is the iPhone 7 on 14.6, dying at 5 hours and 7 minutes in. And of course, hitting that halfway point, we're going to switch to the other 3 devices. The only one that's currently alive in any of these tests is the iPhone 8 on 14.6. And speaking of the iPhone 8 on 14.6, it dies at 5 hours and 16 minutes in. And a while later, the iPhone 11 on 14.5.1 dies at 5 hours and 39 minutes in. And next, the iPhone XR on iOS 14.5.1 dies at 5 hours and 41 minutes in. And alright, checking in after PUBG, not many devices are still alive at this point. On 14.5.1, it's only the iPhone 12, and on 14.6, it's the XR, 11, and 12, but the XR and 11, as you can see there, are just barely hanging on. And alright, so with the first round of the battery test complete, we're going to head back to YouTube, and we're going to stream that same video for another hour on all these devices. And midway through the YouTube video streaming test on the iOS 14.6 test, all 3 devices had a little bit of an issue with streaming the video. As you can see, they were buffering there. This is most likely just a random issue with my router, I assume, so sorry about that. Once again, this circles back to what I said earlier. There's always going to be little minor things that I can't control in this test that will, differ between the 2 iOS version tests. Once again, even more reason to not analyze this test in terms of like detail by detail, but just kind of overall battery performance. But anyways, midway through when this was happening, the iPhone 11 on 14.6 dies at 6 hours and 5 minutes in, and shortly followed by the XR on 14.6 at 6 hours and 9 minutes in. And alright, so at this point, the iPhone 12s are the only devices remaining in both instances, so we'll go ahead and finish up the remainder of this YouTube streaming. And checking in, the iPhone 12 on 14.5.1 is at 25%, and the iPhone 12 on 14.6 is at 17%. So next, we're going to head back to Instagram for another hour of looking at stories and posts. This leaves the iPhone 12 on 14.5.1 with 18%, and the iPhone 12 on 14.6 with 9%. And next, heading back to Minecraft, we're going to go ahead and play on both. And 8 hours and 6 minutes in, the iPhone 12 on 14.6 dies. And 30 minutes into Minecraft on 14.5.1, I'm going to stop interacting with the iPhone 12, as that's the way I designed the test in case there was a bunch of other devices still alive, but obviously that's not the case. But regardless, 8 hours and 26 minutes in, the iPhone 12 on 14.5.1 dies. So there you guys have it. And once again, of course, battery life entirely depends on what you do on your device, but generally, I wouldn't have any worries whatsoever about updating from 14.5.1 to 14.6 in regards to battery life. So as always, let me know down below in the comment section which device you're using and which iOS version you're using and how the battery performance has been for you. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.